Alice up to join us here. So this is Alice. I met Alice whilst I was in Lancaster. You were the student ministry coordinator at the time, yeah. So would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
So I'm now Rev Alice Cole. I wasn't Reverend before. I was training for that when I knew Toby, but now I'm based in Darwin, Lower Darwin, if you're familiar with the area, and I'm a curate there, so trainee vicar. Been there for nearly 2 years. I get confused because I've just had a little baby who's now 1, so I'm just back from maternity leave, so I was working out how long have I had off and how long was I there for. So 2.5 years, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm married, little boy called Joseph, and just returned to work back in November.
Great.
And I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about a time when you've seen God working?
Yeah. So, over Christmas, we've had our Christmas services, and one of the services that we do on a Saturday night is we have a brass band, we sing some carols in church, then we go outside for a firework display, and we come back in for pie and peas. And I was leading this event, but I don't know if it's the same where you live, but on the estate that I live in, whenever there are fireworks, we have an estate Facebook page, and people get very cross with the fireworks, particularly those who have pets. So somebody had posted on our estate Facebook page that the church is having a firework display, and people were starting to get a bit cross, and so I commented to say, kind of, we understand how difficult this is, kind of, for those of you who have pets, and how disruptive it is, and therefore these fireworks are going to be silent. And everyone's like, oh great, thank you so much for listening to us. And so the evening comes, we're outside, the fireworks have started, and they're not all silent. And I said to the vicar, who was standing next to me, you're going to have to make me move house now, because I can't go back there. And as soon as the fireworks had finished, I went straight back in on my phone, on the Facebook page, and already people were getting cross about these fireworks, which weren't silent, as I'd promised they would be. And so straight away, I wrote this profuse apology, kind of terribly, terribly sorry. We thought they were going to be silent. They were probably 3/4 silent, but they weren't completely silent. And actually, I got some great responses. And I was standing there being like, oh, I stepped out of the boat. It's the first time I've written on our estate Facebook page because people get so cross and kind of at each other, therefore I decided I'll stay out of it. But this time I decided I was going to post about the church event, and I do it, and it backfires. And I was like, oh, this is horrible. But the comments I got back after I'd made that apology just kind of blew me away. Comments about, thank you for caring, thank you that you tried, thank you that you tried to take account and tried to get silent fireworks. And it amazed me. And the next day I was preaching on the Christmas story, and my theme was about expect the unexpected. And the night before, when I was like, oh no, I did not expect people to make positive comments. And actually in that situation, God turned what I thought was awful, he turned it around. And actually people seemed to really warm to the church. And really, probably one of the first things that we've done in a while, that they thought, the church cares about us. And I thought that was so amazing how God turns that situation around from something that I was like, this is awful. And he turned it around and showed the estate where I live that actually the church cares about them, and hopefully also that God cares about them too. Sorry, that was a long story, but...
We'll pray for Alice before she speaks. Lord, we pray for Alice as she speaks to us. Let her speak your words tonight, and let us hear what you have to say. Amen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here this evening. When Toby first messaged me and said that this service had started and would I come and speak, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, Toby. I was so excited about what he'd started, because I'm so passionate about young people stepping out in faith feeling kind of so passionate about their faith that they want others to know it as well, and stepping out and doing something new and different. So I'm really excited to be here with you tonight. I wonder, this picture here, if you have ever got stuck climbing over a fence or a sty, and if you've ever had any situations like that. There's a few nods around there. Now I've got a little video of a friend of mine. It's a friend of Toby's as well, actually. And they are attempting to climb over a fence, attempting being the key word. And so if this works, let's have a little watch of this video.
Please, I'm stuck. I'm going to rip my jeans.
You spent the last 2 hours laughing at me, Becca. This is karma. No, you're probably not. Do you actually need a hand?
No, I'm not joking. You have to do it. Like that. I don't know where to get over. Now that I'm over. Yeah, but my jeans are stuck. On.
So I should say I share that video with permission. I did message her and say, Becca, can I share that funny video of you? Because while I was preparing this talk, I couldn't get that video out of my head, partly because it's a funny video, and partly because, I don't know if you meant kind of tonight, I'm going to be speaking on Jesus said, I am the gate. And I feel this might highlight why gates are a good thing, and maybe help us to think about why Jesus said, I am the gate. So, we read the passage, I think on the next slide. Now, I didn't put this, I've got a different Bible. So, I'm going to take this off and read it off the screen. Otherwise, I'll be reading a different version to the one I put up on here. So, the passage tonight, John 10, 1-10. Very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. But they will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him, because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used this figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. Therefore, Jesus said again, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. So what does Jesus mean? I am the gate. What's the context that he's talking about? I don't know where you're up to in the I am sayings, and I'm not going to particularly talk too much about Jesus being the good shepherd, but focusing more on the gate aspect. But when shepherds were out in the hills, away from home and away from safety, they would make up a makeshift pen for their sheep to keep them safe. And this pen, they'd have kind of got together, this is a pretty good one, got together something to make a pen, a kind of a fence around the sheep. But then there would have been a gap for the sheep to come in and out of. And then the shepherd would lie across that gap. He would lie across there to control their coming and their going, and to keep predators out, or to fight them off if they came near. So the gate was the shepherd. As we can see in this picture, that shepherd sitting there in the gap. There wasn't an actual gate there, but the shepherd was that person who acted as a gate. Now, when I read this passage and I was working out what to say this evening, there was a bit that just kind of made me feel a little bit uneasy. And it was the bit about controlling our coming and our going. And I don't know why, I've read this passage lots of times and that's never particularly struck me. But I was planning this. It kind of stood out to me and made me feel a little bit uneasy. But of course that's what a gate is for, kind of the same way that a door we've all come in tonight and we'll all go back out of tonight. And so is it that I feel a bit uneasy because I think, do I really want Jesus to control, to know about my coming and my going? How do I feel about that? How do you feel about that? Is it that we feel it's restrictive? Maybe like parents, when you move back home, anybody who's been in that situation, even now if I was to go back home at 32, my mum would still say, kind of, what time are you going to be back? And who is it you're going out with? It never stops. Is that the kind of the sense that I got when I was thinking about Jesus being the gate? He's kind of like, who are you going out with? And what time will you be back? And that's too late. No, you need to be back in this pen by this time. But then I was saying to God, why am I not sure about this? And he reminded me of that video of Becca and the fact that it is much easier to go through a gate than to climb over the fence, as we saw in that video. Not always so great when we try and climb over a fence. Actually, the gate is a good thing to control or to allow that passing, that coming and going. Jesus, our good shepherd, he wants to guide us well. He wants us to allow him to guide us and to lead us, rather than us trying to go it alone, rather than us trying to jump over the fence. He wants to guide us. He isn't the gate to restrict us, but he's the gate to give us life. If the gate wasn't there, the sheep probably wouldn't last very long. A wolf would get in, or they'd all go off wandering and get lost. The gate is there to give life, to guide. I wonder how we're currently doing life. I wonder whether we're doing life through the Jesus gate. I wonder whether we're trying to climb in and out over the fence. Are we walking with Jesus, or are we going our own way? The song that I've asked Toby to play at the end of my talk, some of you may know it. I don't think it was one that Toby thought you'd done here before. It's called Surrounded. Also, another title, This Is How I Fight My Battles. Do these guys know it on the front? Yeah. There was little kind of nods along the row. And I chose this song because it made me think of the good things of Jesus being the gate. Particularly when we think about this picture. We could maybe think about that being surrounded and him being the gate in that controlling way. Or, as in the words of this song, if you go to the next slide. Yeah, the words of this song, it may look like I'm surrounded, but I'm surrounded by you. It may look like I'm surrounded by wolves, but actually we're surrounded by Jesus, who's there to protect us. If Jesus is the gate, then we're surrounded by him. He's made that wall and then he's closed it by his own body. He puts his own body on the line to protect us. And then rather than us trying to climb over the fence to escape something bad happening to us, or trying to climb over the fence to hide from something, we can rest in the knowledge that he's got us in his pen and he's guarding us. Even though there might be wolves, there might be lions, just the other side of that fence, we are safe with Jesus. Jesus is our protector because, as he says, he is the gate. He is the one who knows that coming and that going, and who allows that coming and that going. But then I got to thinking about, so if this is the situation, we might still be kind of wanting to, or sometimes be climbing over the fence. Maybe just by accident. Maybe because we couldn't see that the gate was actually over there and we tried to climb out over here. So how do we allow Jesus to guide us and to lead us and to not try and climb out over the fence and go our own way? It says in the passage, he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. When he has brought out all his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. I wonder, maybe this is more of a girly story, I don't know. Have you ever been in the changing room and you're trying to get somebody's attention? This happens a lot to me, particularly when I'm shopping with my mum. I try something on. I hope that she hasn't gone too far, so that when I come out of the changing room and I want her opinion, she's close by. But more often than not, I come out of the changing room and I find that she's wandered a little bit further than I would have liked, which means I have to shout to get her attention. And obviously the outfit isn't the perfect outfit and you've got strange shoes on with a nice dress or whatever it is. So you have to do that shout, but actually it's kind of a shout whisper of kind of like, Mum, Mum, Mum. And you don't want to draw attention to yourself, but you do want to get the person's attention. And after shouting Mum a few times with no luck, I then try her actual name, Judith. And as if by magic, she turns around. I'm like, oh. You'd think she would recognise her own daughter's voice. Turns out she doesn't. What she recognises is her own name. It's calling her own name that's important. And Jesus says that the shepherd calls his sheep by name. Jesus calls each of us by name. He doesn't just say, you lot are alive and free, or you lot in Bolton, follow me. A shepherd knows each of the distinctive markings on a sheep. He knows their individual traits. I'm pretty sure that sheep have cheeky ones and grumpy ones and all the other things, and the shepherd would know that. So how much more does he know each of us? How much more does he know your name? But this isn't just a one-sided thing from God calling our name. We have to act too. The sheep hear the shepherd's voice and they follow him because they know him. Now, if this is true about sheep, I have a new respect for sheep. If they can hear the shepherd's voice and they follow him, especially given how difficult I find it to hear God and to recognise his voice. I remember particularly a point when I was at university and I was in such a desperate place. I was longing to hear God. I was longing for him to kind of, that voice out of the sky, longing to hear. I needed direction. I needed him to tell me exactly what to do. And I remember kneeling on my bedroom floor, thinking that kneeling might be the magic kind of thing that he would then answer my prayer if I was kneeling. And it didn't seem that he did. I just got complete silence, or at least I thought it was silence. I didn't get the voice that I was listening out for, but God was speaking. He spoke to me through so many different people, probably in that next week, 2 weeks. And when I'm looking back, I can recognise that that was his voice in these different places. But at the time, I struggled. And hopefully, as we continue on this journey with Jesus, we get better at recognising Jesus' voice. Maybe even it's just Jesus' fingerprints on things. How well do we know the shepherd? So that when he's trying to lead us out of that gate, or lead us back in through that gate, we hear him. We hear his voice. And we're willing to follow him. Because where he's going to lead us is to new pastures. He's going to lead us to fresh grass. He's going to lead us to water to drink. He's going to lead us to life. He's going to lead us to the best possible life. Will we let him sustain us? Maybe will we let him stop us, restrain us from something? Do we trust that he knows best and will provide for and protect us. Jesus said, "I am the gate." Jesus is our protector because he is the gate. He's not the gate to hem us in, but he's the gate to bring us freedom and safety and life within the protection that he gives. When we're surrounded by Jesus, we learn to recognise his voice more and more. I imagine when we're in that pen with him, maybe the shepherd sings during the night, we'd learn to recognise his voice and trust him. Being surrounded by Jesus is the best place that we can be in. So as we draw to a close and move into a time of reflection, of prayer, maybe there's little things that have stirred in you. Maybe you've gone off thinking about something that I said, or something that maybe is going to happen next week, or something that's just happened. If you want someone to pray with you about that, sometimes it can be a little bit scary, a little bit vulnerable to go and say, "Can you just pray with me about that?" But actually, whenever I've stepped out and gone and prayed with somebody about that, it actually helps me to hear God's voice slightly better, I feel. Maybe I just tune in a little bit more. So if you want someone to come alongside you this evening, then the prayer ministry team will be available at the back. So as we go and play this song, choose whether you want to sit or to stand. If this is a new song, then feel free to sit and let the words just wash over you. Being surrounded by Jesus. As we start a new year, as we look to a new year, let's start it in that place of being surrounded. We don't know what challenges we might face this year. We don't know what ups and downs the year is going to bring. But if we start it being in that pen with Jesus, knowing that he is surrounding us, then we start it in a good place. Amen.